Hey guys, welcome to Turbo 360. In this tutorial, we're going to build a t-shirt store where we can upload t-shirts and sell them on the site. It's going to look like this. This is the theme we're going to use. And we are going to include a checkouts flow. So you will be able to actually process purchases on this t-shirt store. We will be using PayPal for that. So you're going to need a PayPal account, and I think it has to be a business account, which is free. So if you want to follow along with the payments processing, make sure you have a business account on PayPal, and again, that's free. And we will include a payments integration where visitors on your website can actually purchase actual t-shirts if they also have a PayPal account. So we're going to be using Node.js and Express on the web stack, so make sure you have Node.js installed. If you don't, head over to nodejs.org and install. Typically I use the LTS, but if you want to try the current version, that's fine too. But the LTS is usually more stable, and you're going to need an account on Turbo 360. This is free. We're going to be doing our hosting on here. This is a free hosting platform where you can deploy your projects, your Node.js projects. This is also a theme that you're going to have to download. There will be a link included to this theme on the description of this video. So if you're watching on YouTube, just head over to the description and you'll see a download link where you can download this theme. And I do also have a couple images prepared. So you'll actually see two download links. You're going to see one for the theme and one for separate images that I prepared for our own website to make it a t-shirt website instead. So that should be everything we need. So let's head over to our terminal and get started. So open up your terminal. I am going to change directory to my desktop where I do most of my coding work. And let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to check my Node version. I'm running 12.18, so make sure you have a version like that or higher. My NPM version is 6.14.8. I'm going to install the Turbo command line interface. So sudo npm install global for -g for global and Turbo CLI. So the Turbo CLI is our tool that we use to basically interface with our Turbo environment. So when we need to deploy our projects or a couple other things for our projects on Turbo, we do that through the CLI. So we will be basically using this to deploy our projects. The Turbo CLI version I'm running is 0.39.3, so make sure you have this version or higher. If you have a previously installed version from maybe a previous tutorial and it's lower than this, go ahead and run this update and make sure you have an up-to-date version so that we have all the same functionality. So that should be everything we need to get going for today's tutorial at least. And again, make sure you have the theme downloaded as well as the images directory. So these are the themes. This zip file here, and this is the images directory right here. So make sure you have these two zip files, and these are all the assets we will use for today's project. And I think for the entire project, this is all we're going to need. So let's get started. So first thing we need to do is actually create the project. So we're going to use the Turbo CLI to do that. So we do Turbo, new, and then I'm going to call it t-shirt store. So what we're doing here is we're scaffolding a new project using the Turbo CLI, which will create for us a Node Express project that works out of the box. This gives us a very bare bones, stripped down, simple Node Express project with a couple configuration options already set up for us, like the templating engine. The static assets directory is already assigned. A couple other things to make our setup a lot faster and easier. So go ahead and run that, and it should create the new project right here. Don't worry about this. Let's open this up in Visual Studio or whatever text editor you use. Doesn't have to be VS Code. And this is the project, and like I said, this works out of the box, but remember it doesn't have the npm modules installed right away, so we have to do that first. So npm install, and it will install the dependencies. Whoops, cd into the project first, excuse me. So cd into the project, so I forgot to do that, and then run npm install so it can install the dependencies that the project requires to run. And then while that's going on, let's just quickly look through this. So we have our package.json over here where the dependencies are declared. So these are being installed right now. You can see it's not very many. And a couple other run scripts. So the npm serve and the npm start are the run scripts. We're going to use npm serve because it gives us a dev server, which gives us some console logging, additional console logging for debugging if necessary. And then let's see what else. We have our app.js where we declare our routes, which is happening over here, and we set the paths for those routes. We're going to remove these and replace these with our own routes. We have our routes directory here where the route logic is actually written. So this is where the request response cycles are actually executed, or over here. The public directory is our static assets directory. So this is for our images, JavaScript, CSS, and that's pretty much all we need to know for this project. Also, I forgot to mention, if you're a beginner to Node.js and Express, so let's say you have some JavaScript and general coding background knowledge, you've been doing self-study for a while, a few months on Udemy or YouTube or something like that, this should be a good tutorial to pick up next. But this is not for complete beginners. So if you've never coded before in your entire life, if you're a total beginner to code, I'm going to be moving a bit fast. You might already be lost. So you shouldn't be a total beginner, but you should have some background knowledge in JavaScript and basic coding concepts like what's an array, how to loop through an array perhaps, or things like that. So make sure you understand the basics, and then this should be a good next step. Basically, this is a good position to be in tutorial-wise if you are having a hard time sort of combining a lot of separate concepts into one functional, cohesive project. So that's where this would be right now. If you're already lost and you're too much of a beginner for this, head back to Turbo, and you'll see a lot more beginner tutorials on the tutorials page. And I would suggest beginning with basic Node.js and Express, where I really cover the minutia, all the little details of routing and request and response and middleware and all that stuff. So that's that. Okay, let's run this project to make sure it runs successfully first. So npm run serve. So I'm running that serve script that I pointed out in the package.json. It gives us this output here, telling us to head over to localhost 3000 to actually see the project. And this is the project that was scaffolded for us by using the turbo new command. And this is basically the generic project on Turbo. So just to make sure you understand what you're looking at, we are looking at the views directory with the index.mustache. This is basically the home template, the home HTML file, and it is being served via the index route right here. So like I said, we're going to remove all this and replace it with our own content. So let's go ahead and get that started right now. So first thing we want to do is inside the routes directory, we're going to create a new route. I'm going to call it main.js. Let's remove these other two so it doesn't get in the way, it doesn't create any confusion or anything like that. So in the routes directory, we're going to create a main.js route. And inside the app.js, let's comment all of this out for now. And let's go back to the main.js, and let's go back to the app.js. I'm sorry I'm skipping around, but const main equals require. So we're going to import the main.js route, and then we want to set the path, tell the app to use it for the home page request, like that. And so now we are connecting our main.js route to the home page request. This means home page, the base path. And then the main route will take over the logic for the home page. Of course, we don't have anything going on here, so let's set that up. So we need to import the Express module. So let's do that. And then we also need to create an Express router. So we have to create the router. And then always do the export right away because it's very easy to forget. And if you do forget, it creates a lot of confusion. Okay, so now let's create our first route. It's going to be a get route, and then it's going to be for the home page. And then we want to install what's called a callback, so that the callback takes 3 arguments. And then for now, we're going to have the argument just send back a string. This is the main route. And that's going to be it. So now keep in mind, this is already connected. We did that in the app.js, so we can just go ahead and run this and test it right away, just to make sure we didn't make any mistakes or forget anything, like maybe this export right here. Very easy to forget. Just go ahead and test it and see what we get. So okay, and this is the main route. Okay, so it's been successfully connected. Let's go ahead and implement our own home page, our own home template. Obviously, this is not going to be the home page, so let's go ahead into our views directory where the templates are stored, and let's go ahead and create our own view called home.mustache. Mustache is a templating engine, which makes it easy for us to inject dynamic data into basically HTML templates. So don't let the extension confuse you. It's really just an HTML file, but it gives us some additional functionality with regard to injecting data into the file so that it can be rendered dynamically based on the data. So that makes life a lot easier. So let's go ahead and create a very, very basic HTML template. And it's just going to have basically one line of text. This is the home template. And let's render this template instead of that string. So we want to render it. So we do render. And then we just pass in the name of the template. So the name of the template is home, which corresponds to this name right here. So we just render that. So let's go ahead and run the serve here. And let's see what we get. So this is the home template. So we are good to go there. And let's go ahead and now start using the actual theme so that we can make it look a little bit nicer than this, right? So so basically all we've done here is we've confirmed that we have taken over the logic of the site. Right? That's the main thing. So we've taken over we have control of over the UI and the request response cycle. And so now we can basically proceed with confidence that everything we do, we control the output. So this home mustache we're going to remove and we're going to replace with the contents of the template. So here's the zip file that you downloaded for the template. If you have downloaded this is what you get. You want to unzip it, and you're going to get this when you unzip it. So go ahead and unzip the template zip file, and you're going to get the theme zip file, and you're going to get this. And if you open this up, you're going to see a couple basically HTML files and static asset directories. So if you open the index.html, you're going to see the UI from the beginning of the video. This will be our homepage. So this is the index.html, right? So what we need to do is we need to open this up in Visual Studio. And this is going to be our HTML. So we just copy the whole thing. So just highlight the whole thing and copy it, and then take it and paste it into the home mustache template. We're just moving it from one file to another file, and that's it. So we just copied and pasted and moved it over into our project. So if we run our project, we will no longer see that that random text that we had before. We're going to see this. So obviously this is all wrong because it doesn't look like that. So what we forgot to do is I didn't really forget, but I'm just pointing out that we need to now import the static assets. So that's all the CSS and JavaScripts and images and all that stuff. So those are also in the template. So if we open up the template, I'm just going to move this over here to make it easier to see. If we open up the template, right, the theme right here, these are the static asset folders, right? So what we need to do is move these folders into our project. So let's open up our project, which is right here. And oh, this is a mistake. Okay, and then if you recall earlier in the video, I pointed out that the static assets are stored in the public directory. So basically, it's pretty simple. We just need to move these over into our public directory, and that's basically it. So let's go ahead and do that. So we just take these guys and move them over like that, and replace what we had before. So now we have the static assets taken from the theme and moved over into our project. And we don't need this images anymore because the theme uses IMG instead. So now the static assets have been moved over. If we run the project, and reload this here, now we have the theme successfully integrated into our project, running on localhost 3000. It's running through our Node Express project setup. So we have successfully integrated the theme. So we're more or less done for it for now, at least. We'll probably add a few more pages later, but that's the process. So we move over the template and then the static assets, and then it's all set up. So now we have some quick, nice looking UI that we can use to set the foundation for the UI of our t-shirt store. So basically we want to change all this into a t-shirt shop. I did have a couple t-shirt images prepared for this as well. It's called the images folder right here, which you should have downloaded from the description of this video as well. We're probably not going to get to this until the next video, but we have all the images and assets we need. Actually, no, I was mistaken. We have a couple other images here that we need. So we will be using this in today's video. So first thing we want to do is take the HTML template here, which is again using the Mustache templating engine, and essentially carve it up into reusable pieces. Organize this into reusable pieces called partials. So for example, this head tag right here is a chunk of HTML. It's a 30-line block of HTML that should be basically reused in all the pages of this website. Basically, it'll be the same thing in all the pages. So we want to put that into a separate file called a partial, which we can reuse throughout the website. So what we want to do in order to make that happen is we head over to our views directory right here, and we create another directory called partials. I'm in the wrong directory, so let's go ahead and do that again. So head over to the views directory and create a partials folder, and inside the partials folder, let's create a new file called head.mustache, and the partials are just more mustache files, so it's really the same concept. And then what we want to do is grab the contents of the head tag and just remove them. This time we're not copying them, we're removing them, we're cutting it, and then we're going to paste it inside the head partial instead. If I run the project, by the way, we can leave the project running, we don't have to keep on restarting. If I run the project now and then reload the home page, you're going to see all the assets are gone, everything. We lost all the styling. That's because we removed the head tag. So we need to restore it by heading back to our home mustache and using the head partial, which we do with these double curly braces. This is now the mustache templating syntax. And then that little caret sign, and then the name of the partial, which is the head partial. So we are now using a partial here to render a chunk of HTML, a block of HTML, which we can reuse throughout the entire site. So if I reload now, we're back in business. Everything looks the same as it did before. If I open the actual source code, you'll see that we have the head tag showing up right here, and that's coming from the partial. So this is a much better way to organize the pieces of your website that should basically stay the same on every page. So if we look over here, the head tag, actually it's not visible so you can't see, but the head tag is the same on every page. this nav bar is going to be the same on every page, right? If you go to another page like the blog or the women's section or the men's section, the nav bar is going to be identical. So this should also be its own partial. So let's go ahead and do that. So we head over to the partials folder and create a new one called nav.mustache. Head back to the home template, and the nav mustache template partial, should be this header right here. So we just cut it. So again, don't copy it, we cut it. And then if I reload, the navigation bar is now gone, right? So if I go back to nav mustache and then I paste it in, we can now use the partial instead. So we just go like that, nav. I'm going to remove this page loader. I don't think we're going to use this really. And then like that. Don't forget that little caret. And so now we're using, again, the mustache templating engine to take advantage of partials. So let's go ahead and do that. So now if I reload, back in business. Okay, so that looks good. Another partial, if we scroll down to the bottom, is going to be this footer right here. Because again, if you think about it, this footer should show up identical on every page of the site. So that's going to be its own partial. So let's go ahead and change that as well, or add that. So we do head back to the partials and create a new file called footer.mustache. And then in the home template, all the way in the bottom, you'll see a footer section right here. We can just go ahead and grab all of that. So again, don't copy it, we want to cut it. And then paste it into the footer partial. If I reload the home page, just make sure it's gone, which it is. See, I'm on the bottom. And then over here, reuse it like that, or implement it using the partial. And now it's right back here. And last but not least, these JavaScript imports are also going to be a partial because these are going to be the same on every page of the site. So I'm going to create another one called scripts. And we're going to grab these scripts. I'm going to just go ahead and implement this right away. And then just go ahead and make sure it still works. Okay, so everything looks good now. We have our template, our home template, organized into partials, which means when we add more pages, we can just reuse these partials, and it makes things a lot more easy to change. For example, if I want to change one thing on the nav bar, we just have to change one file right here instead of every page. It makes life a lot easier and makes things a lot more efficient. And if you look closely, whatever's left behind from a HTML standpoint is what's only unique to the homepage. So all this stuff is really just unique to the homepage. So when we create new pages, it won't look like this. We'll have different content, but the partial content will be the same. Okay, great. So we have our project ready. It's a little bit better organized now. The next thing I'm going to do is actually deploy it right away, just to make sure it works on the staging environment, because sometimes things will act differently on staging as they do on localhost and vice versa, and that's not good. You want to make sure things are the same. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off the server here by doing Control-C. So the server is now off, so make sure the server is off. And we're going to go ahead and deploy this, and if from earlier in the video you may recall, the deployment is on Turbo. So you need an account on Turbo, so don't forget that. So you're gonna, in your CLI, you're going to need to actually log in to your Turbo account. So you do Turbo login. When you enter the password, nothing will show up, so don't be confused by that, but it is working. So I'm logged into my account on Turbo, and then head over to your Turbo account on the actual website. Make sure you're logged into the same account. Head over to your account page. Over here on the left side, you'll see, actually, we're good to go from here. This is your account page where you can set your profile, your bio, things like that. And then over here, we want to create a new site. So I'm going to call it T-shirt store, and then create the site. So what this does here is basically it creates it carves out some space on the hosting environment where you can deploy your project. It's kind of like a dedicated space for your project for hosting. We're going to need the site ID and the API key to actually deploy our project. So let's go ahead and connect our local source code. So we have to connect our code locally to this remote environment that we just created, so it knows where to deploy. So in order to do that, you do turbo connect, and then it's asking me for the site ID. So we just copy the site ID and we just paste it in, and then the API key, and then we just paste that in. And so now we're successfully connected locally. Our project locally is successfully connected to the remote environment that we created over here, so we can deploy. So we can go ahead and send the project itself up to the Turbo hosting environment. That's pretty simple. All you do is turbo deploy, and this will send our project to a staging environment where we can then confirm that it works the same on staging as it does on localhost. And then once we confirm that, we can be confident that everything we do locally should be the same as on the remote environment. So I'm going to go ahead and run this and pause the video while it goes up, because it usually takes about 1 to 2 minutes. Okay, the deployment is up. If it worked for you, you should see this as well. The deploy complete output command. And this gives you a link to the staging environment. So this is your staging URL where you're hosting your project. So this is actually on the internet, it's live. Anyone can visit this. And so if we copy and paste that into our browser, we see the same thing on staging as we do on localhost. And so that's great. That means everything worked. Everything is good to go locally as it is on the remote. And so basically we have confirmed that whatever we do on our computer should work on the staging environment the same way. And so that gives us the proper confidence that we have everything we need to build out the project from an environmental standpoint. So hopefully you got that working on your end as well. I'm going to wrap it up in this video, but in the next video we're going to start customizing this content using the images that you downloaded for this video as well. Want to add our own t-shirts, change the name, things like that, and we're gonna go ahead and make this website look like our website. So that's it. Hopefully you got everything working. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.